Wrestling Broadcast Network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment.
Thompson.
AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Welcome back, Agent Carter fans. It's time for the AFTERBUZZ TV Agent Carter After Show. I'm your host, Zach Wilson. And we're grooving here at AFTERBUZZ to some 40s jams. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. As I said, my name is Zach Wilson. I'll be your host this evening. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, all the places at that Zach Wilson. I'll be checking it throughout the show. Got you guys in live chat. Now let me introduce my fantastic panel so we can get into this episode. Better Angels. On the far end of the table, Jesse Klein.
Hey everyone, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at JessKlein1, and I'm super excited for the show.
Emma Fyffe.
I am Emma Fyffe. Yes, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Emma Fyffe, and I'm pretty jazzed about this show myself, especially with this jazzy music.
And Megan Salinas.
Hey guys, you can tweet at me at the Menguin. That's TheMenguin.
You can groove like this. All right, if you're listening to us, you're missing my grooving in the fedora.
Just take that bass for a walk.
Yeah.
All right, so that I can actually hear you guys. The hat's going on the table.
Aww.
Maybe I'll put it on later.
It's okay.
in the
It's
show.
okay.
Yeah.
It's also very warm in here.
It is.
All right, so right off the bat, I just want to know overall impressions. What did you guys think? This is the third episode of the season, second week.
Yeah.
I saw some people in the chat roll like, "What, did I miss an episode?"
No.
Last week it was considered technically what it was episodes 1 and 2. This is episode 3. All right. How do you guys feel?
I feel like this episode was like kind of like a sigh of relief. Because there was so much forward momentum towards the end of the last episode in terms of like what happened to Wilkes,
right?
What the deal was with the FBI agent, and I feel like for this one, even if maybe there wasn't a ton going on, I feel like we got answers. We hit a lot of good story beats. So for me, it felt like an exhale of an episode.
Yeah,
if that makes any sense.
I agree. I mean, it was definitely not as action-packed as the first 2 episodes were, and I don't think that is necessarily a bad thing, because I think if the show had maintained sort of the breakneck pace that we had in the last 2 episodes, I think this one might have felt kind of rushed. But at the same time, it was like, I didn't feel like it was slow, but looking back at it, I'm kind of like, oh, not really as much happened in this episode.
Well, yeah,
I think it was more of a setup episode. We now know all the players.
Yes.
And we know all of their kind of at least general motivations. Mm-hmm. Like before
General motivation.
Before it was kind of like, welcome back to, like, the first 2 episodes were like, welcome back to this world.
Right.
Here's a catch up of what's been going on with your characters. Here are the new characters that you'll see in this series. And this was really just this was really a first episode. Like, this felt like the first episode. Like, this is what established what we'll see for the next part of the series.
Yeah, I thought it was in terms of pacing, it was a little bit of a, like, there's a lot of cool stuff in this episode. In terms of pacing, I thought it was a little off. Especially because, like, we have to, like, we're just inevitably comparing this to S.H.I.E.L.D. a little bit, and S.H.I.E.L.D. is so good at keeping that frenetic, constantly moving pace that for this to be the 3rd episode of the season, I expected us to be moving faster. And I know that it's a different show, and it has a different tone and everything like that, but the first 2 episodes sort of set us up in this, like, it launched us forward with zero matter and explosions and, like, I thought we were gonna get and we got a little bit of, like, Madame Mask, and we'll get into her later. Whitney, we'll get into that, but I expected more. I think I expected more. I expected to get more story momentum in this episode, even if it wasn't big set pieces.
Yeah.
Well, I think with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., not to make too many comparisons, but I think with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., because there are so many big players, and again, it had like a season, and it had an entire season to ramp up that pace, and then just starting with season 2, it was just nonstop. I feel like with Agent Carter, again, because she is very much acting like a lone wolf, and I love that she's going to get more of a team this season.
Yeah.
But I feel like because she's acting like a lone wolf can only go so fast. At least in terms of like the show pacing, she can't go 1,000,000 miles per minute.
And I think too, some of the appeal of Agent Carter as a series is that it is a period piece, and it is kind of at heart a spy show. You know what I mean? Like, it's so much more about Peggy's like investigations and covert operations and disguising herself and infiltrating places, that I think that it needs moments like this episode to kind of breathe and go, okay, here's all the pieces being put in place for what's going to happen down the road, so that we as the audience have some time to try to figure it out.
Yeah, you gotta hit the brakes a little bit.
Yeah.
Especially if we're considering this season to be like a Raymond Chandler like Pulp Fiction novel, then like this part was the investigatory, like gathering some evidence, like finding out who like the big players are. There's probably a big player that we don't know that's going to be behind the big players. Like, so if they're using it that type of blueprint for this season, then it makes sense. I also thought it kind of moved pretty quickly. Like we're saying it was slow, but it was. I mean, we got a fight in there.
Yeah.
We got some heavy bag punching. We got an awesome scene where they
She already
infiltrate.
found Whitney.
Yeah.
We got an awesome scene where they infiltrate the gentleman's club.
Yes, that was great.
Which was fantastic. Like, I think it, just because we got those first 2 episodes at the beginning, which really didn't serve as a setup for the season, they kind of were just like, it was almost like you could have done those as like a web before. And because number one, no Bernard in this episode. Very disappointing.
I think we're going to have to start an official hashtag Bernard watch.
Yeah, where's hashtag Bernard?
Where's Bernard?
But I think this was really the episode where it's like, hey guys, here's what's happening for the rest of the season, and we got that taken care of. Yeah.
We have a comment on the hashtag from Jillybean729. This episode was so great, so much perfect.
Aw.
Can't help it.
Yeah.
I will say that to the credit of this episode, like, while the pace may not have felt like fast, they did move stuff forward, especially in that. What was I gonna say? One of the things that I've always complimented S.H.I.E.L.D. on,
Right.
is that when they know that you're going somewhere, they like have revealed like, okay, we're gonna do this. They don't stall on it for very long. They just do it.
Yeah.
And so like this episode, like. We know that Whitney is going to be Madame Mask and is going to have crazy superpowers. So by the end of the next episode, after that happens, she is sucking up people into her
Just
hands.
absorbing
Which is
people.
interesting because Madame Mask does not have that power in the comics.
No, but we'll see what they do, and we'll get into that. We'll get into that. Let's dive into this episode. Let's start breaking it down. I want to start with Peggy's investigation because like where we started out. They're going into Wilkes' house.
Yes.
Followed by the paparazzi.
Yes.
I guess the paparazzi. I mean, I guess they're following like who died in the.
I think in the like the way that it is a Raymond Chandler novel, like how the press is affected and it affects our investigators is really important. Like they talked about it last week as well about like, oh, we can't put that in the papers, like all of that kind of stuff. So I think part of the season will be Peggy learning how to play the press as well, because they're following her around. I was like, she's a secret agent. Why are the press?
Yeah.
Why are there people taking pictures of her?
She looks like a. I mean, like I know.
She does look like a
movie star.
She looks like a starlet. Like
She looks like a Hollywood. I know. But she's
with
also
the big glasses. And...
She's also a secret agent.
but she's got the big red glasses in the purple dress.
Yeah.
Like I did have a like I love all the dresses that pick. Like, they're all awesome.
Wardrobe is amazing.
But that one scene, I was like, that's not how an agent of the SSR would dress to go into an investigation.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that some of it is like, as you say, it's like she looks like a movie star, and it's almost like
She looks like a Hollywood.
Yeah, sorry, she looks
You
like a
have to dress
Hollywood.
for the dry heat,
Yeah.
Zach. She's not in New York at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. No,
Very
but that's
dry.
the thing is that like
Like
LA.
Sousa's Hawaiian
Yeah.
shirt.
Yeah, but like LA is a movie town, and so it's almost in some ways less conspicuous for her to be really conspicuous, if that makes any sense. But because
Yes,
it's like
I mean,
LA is
it's
a town where
It's hiding in plain sight.
yeah,
and I get that.
everyone in LA is trying to be seen and on camera at all times. So I don't know. I think it makes sense.
And why don't they just set up 5 cameras and sit in a room and talk about TV? Yeah, I mean. Also, I think it's very obvious that Peggy uses the fact that she is a woman, and that people we see with the I get so confused with these words or whatever the line was.
I just get so confused around books.
Yeah, exactly. Like she uses the assumptions that the culture has about women to her advantage.
She does.
Because she's a super spy. She'll take any advantage she has. So I think if she wears a stunning dress, she can find, a police officer that if she was, in a more severe, not as stunning dress, would not talk to her. But because she's wearing that dress, she can use that to her advantage.
I'm lost. I need help with my little old vehicle here.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's the thing is like
Yeah.
I get that. That's the difference. Is I get it like when she goes into the arena club in like
Yeah.
almost every other circumstance. I get it. It was just that one where it's like you're very clearly going into a criminal investigation right now. No, like. There's no question as to what you're doing there, and to be fair, I don't know what what I would imagine that she would wear.
Well, she would
It's just-
probably, in all honesty, she
refrigerator
probably, with that much press being, and again, we're kind of focusing on something that's kind of silly,
Yeah.
which, although the costuming is great, but like, if she knows that there's going to be a lot of press there, she's probably going to look stranger if she walks up to the scene wearing pants, even if she's accustomed to wearing
Fair
pants.
enough.
That is
all the
true.
time.
Fair enough.
That's why you
anyway.
wear a refrigerator box.
Or she should just get one of those like floor length trench coats,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
the detectives wear.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
moving on from this particular part of the topic.
I think the important thing is that there's been evidence planted against
Against
Wilkes to
Wilkes,
make him look
exactly.
like a commie.
Yeah.
They find a Russian passport and 50 grand.
And a gun under his bed, and oh man.
Yeah, and it's the same gun that was used to kill
Exactly.
the two agents.
It's a Chekhov gun, if you will.
This is a setup, Chief.
Yeah. No, it's very clear that he's been set up. Though I did like the how Peggy. I liked, this is gonna sound weird, I really liked the Foley when Peggy discovered the hollow floor.
Yeah.
Like the very clear sound, because like the sound of high heel shoes on a floor is much more distinctive than like just a flat men's loafer or something like Sousa was wearing, and so like Peggy was very able to easily discover that the floor was hollow.
That's good. That's a good point. I hadn't even thought about the heels.
Yeah.
But
It's all about the acoustics.
But that's a good point as to why other detectives would have overlooked that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Except it was my first reaction was like, if you're a super spy, the first place a detective is going to look is under
the floorboards. It's true.
And it was like, and that's when they were like, oh, it's a setup. I was like, oh, of course, because they
That's
made
exactly
it
what
super easy.
Yep.
Because they literally
Yeah.
just lifted the rug and pushed down on it and lifted the floorboard.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, in fairness, it was the late 40s, which, by the way, I have to thank our fans, and we'll get to exactly what it was later. You're right. As we were calling it the 50s in the last episode, I think I was still
1947,
stuck
yeah.
on like the early reports
Yeah.
that
Right,
said
right,
that the show
right.
was going to be set in the 50s,
yeah.
and I never heard otherwise, so I just never corrected in my brain.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Not to get off on too much of a tangent, but according to Jilly Bean again on Twitter, Bernard is on Twitter at Bernard_ST4RK. So that'll be very helpful in the Bernard watch.
Oh my
Perfect.
God.
Just thought I would share that.
Did Bernard
Bernard's
tweet
on
about
Twitter.
the lack of himself in this
Sorry,
episode?
live chat. I've got to go tweet Bernard.
Oh my God. Anyway.
Yeah.
It's cool to see like a precursor to the Cold War, like kind of incorporated into this spy like noir mystery. I like seeing that, and I I can't help but appreciate, obviously Peggy was starting to have feelings for Wilkes, but I can't help but appreciate her dedication to wanting to preserve his honor in terms of like his memory, because they're clearly setting him up as a patsy.
Well, I think that it also goes back to Cap a little bit, in that like a legacy means a lot to her, and like what that does, and like the fact that like after death, like it can be besmirched, it can be changed, it can be used for purposes it wasn't meant to be. And she's seen all that with Cap's story, and she doesn't want that for Wilkes. If he really was a good person and died, she doesn't want his death to have negative meaning as opposed to the positive meaning that it should have.
Absolutely, yeah. Because I mean, as she said, and once we discover that he's not entirely dead,
my heart.
Exactly.
This is one of the rare cases where somebody actually did fade away to another dimension, didn't they?
Yeah, they actually did fade away to another dimension.
So much anime in this episode. That's so weird.
Technically, he didn't fade into the other
That's
dimension.
true.
He was just affected by it.
Yeah. Sorry if I interrupted, but the chemistry between the two of them is like the best chemistry so far in a Marvel property.
You're talking about Wilkes and Peggy?
Yeah. Like that moment they had where he was like, I should go, and she was like, don't go, and he was like, well, I guess I won't go, but not because I think it's the right thing, but because you want me to stay here.
Yeah,
that's enough of a reason for me.
I was like, touch him.
But that little moment when she turned away from him was like, good, and then she turns away and just has that like little smile. It was a very well acted scene.
Well, let's get into Wilkes and Peggy and all of that, because like Jesse, gotta give it up to Jesse Klein over here, who gave us the hot tip on Jason Wilkes last week, going intangible. I mean, that's what we got, and it's just as heartbreaking to watch as we predicted.
I know. Yeah, when she reached out, so basically, they realized that the temperature around Peggy is different, and like things are being suspended in midair in her general vicinity, but it's actually because he's there and he's been tailing her,
and he's trying to get attention.
Right, exactly. He's been trying to get her attention since the accident happened with the Zero Matter, and Howard Stark basically figures out a way to like make him visible.
And audible.
I mean, he uses a very basic, or very wordy, so that you don't really think about it too much.
Yeah, exactly.
Way of explaining that, silver nitrate, which is used in cameras and film, will cause you to be able to observe whatever is causing this gravitational problem.
Yeah. I mean, it delved a little bit into quantum theory about how, things only exist because they're observed, and they only act a certain way because we're observing them. So once he was able to observe it, and bring it back into this world, and then the only thing that bothers me with that is the voice box thing, because no one's looking at a voice box. Yeah, and I was like, okay, but I'll buy it.
Because otherwise he's going to have to play charades with them for every scene, or Pictionary.
It's always a movie.
But basically they managed to materialize. I mean, he was always there, but they visualize Dr. Wilkes. And in that scene when, he first pops up and Peggy's like, he's like, I thought I was dead. And she's like, apparently not. And she reaches out for him and her hand just goes straight through him. It was very sad.
Yeah.
No, it's
Cue the Charlie Brown.
I
know. The part where Stark is talking and mid-sentence appears in his torso. And has coffee. I was like, okay, right.
It kind of reminds me of watching Ghost.
A little bit.
The Patrick Swayze movie where it's just like, oh man. It's hard to watch.
If there's a scene where Peggy makes a clay pot.
I this is real, I just gotta say it because it made me giggle, but B-Dog in the chat roll says, Peggy wants to help Wilkes become ... solid. Let's see how awesomely awkward this gets.
Corporeal is the word I would use.
Corporeal, yeah.
Yeah. Also, the chat made some awesome Princess Bride references earlier with it being only mostly dead. Yeah. I'd just like to give some props for that because that movie's awesome.
It really is.
Yeah.
He just wanted to say he's not dead yet.
He can dance and he can sing.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. But so Wilkes is going to stick around. They're going to Stark's off to Brazil to find
Peru, yeah.
Sorry, South America.
To find Abner Brody.
Abner Brody.
Is this a character? The name didn't mean anything to me.
It didn't mean anything to me, but I mean, we have all the world's knowledge at our hands. We could probably Google it.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's an expert. He's like Stark's mentor.
Yeah.
Sounds like a pretty smart dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I loved the Stark moments today. I really liked the Stark and Jarvis interaction because you see how important Jarvis is to Stark. Like when they're in the lab and like Stark's asking him for second opinions and stuff like that. Like it's much more than just like a butler and the person he serves. Like they're like you can see how important Jarvis is to Howard Stark.
Yeah. And vice versa. Too.
And how he doesn't want to be more than just a disembodied voice for the rest of time.
Yes. Yeah, because he's the voice of the new security system at Stark's mansion.
I immediately played out the next like 50 years of what's happening because in my head, like, he installs that and then they never take it down, or like Howard won't let him take it down, and then so Tony grows up with that voice like
around the house and no dad around the house.
Well, with that voice just like telling him like, I'm sorry, you are not allowed in this area, which sounds so much like the Avengers mansion Jarvis talking.
And I believe that line in particular, Jesse, which you just brought up, is what at Jillybean 729 was talking about. She tweeted at us earlier before the episode and said, "Oh, such a clever line near the end of tonight's episode. I hope that you guys catch it. Thank you for not spoiling it for us." And also, is that it? Let us know.
I just picture Stark as soon as he designs Tony when he designs his intelligence, his like first like artificial intelligence that's gonna like talk to him. He's like, well, what am I gonna call it? Oh, of course it's gonna be Jarvis.
And I can just see the computer's reaction going, I had one request. Just one.
And I really liked the scene between Jarvis and Howard Stark when he was saying to him, when Howard was saying to Jarvis, you know, you and Carter make a really good team. Like, let me know if I need to get another butler.
Yeah. I don't normally comment on this for a lot of the live action shows that we cover. Normally it's something that I talk about when we cover animated shows because it's talking about the quality of the animation. But there were some really great facial expressions in this episode. Really good nonverbal acting. Just like at one point you see the look on Sousa's face when it was while Howard and Jarvis were talking. And you could just see this look of, like, you can tell that Peggy's still important to him. And, like, almost to the point where I still don't think he's popped the question yet to his...
he hasn't, because he said, I'm going to get engaged, not I'm engaged.
Exactly. So you can just see, like, the look of, like, being torn on his face.
I thought that Sousa's sort of background acting, again, the, like, nonverbal performance was very good this week.
Haywood Wong in the chat brings up that there is a character right now in Marvel whose name is Ghost, and his thing is he's got a suit that makes him incorporeal, and he can like move throughout things.
He fought Spider-Man recently.
He's like an espionage guy. He was on the Thunderbolts for a while.
I think it's someone else.
He might be the same guy. And maybe Wilkes is a play on that.
Maybe.
That's possible, but Wilkes also in the comic books was incorporeal for one episode, like one part of a book.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting, cool.
Yeah. I also really enjoyed the stuff between Stark and Jarvis.
Yeah.
I think what it showed, it showed a little bit of, there was a little bromance going on.
And sort of the teamwork between them when they infiltrated the club, the arena club.
Yeah, well, because I think especially last season, like, we saw a lot of Jarvis and Peggy, and we fell in love with the two of them, but they sort of overlooked the fact that, like, Stark and Jarvis are, like, old buddies.
Yeah.
They've known each other for years and years and years.
Yeah, they have a long, well-established relationship, and I think you particularly saw that, you know, in that nice, sincere moment that they had later, where Howard Stark was like, "Hey, let me know if I need to find a new butler," and Jarvis is like, "But I'm very happy in my position." And when they were infiltrating the arena club, and they come in, and Howard's like, "It's been 5 minutes. Where's my martini?" Jarvis, go help him out.
Let me show you how to make a martini
in a timely fashion.
Or even just kind of like their shorthand. Like, Howard knows immediately when it's time to get going.
Yeah, while we're still talking about Howard, I think this is a good time to, like, bring up, because people in the chat roll are also just talking about it. The stained glass window.
Yes.
Ray, our fantastic engineer, if you could bring up that photo
he's
for
on
us.
it, man.
I know, it's there.
It's an arc reactor.
Yeah, it's an arc reactor.
It's an arc reactor. I know that, like, Tony had said at one point, just because we're doing tidbits and stuff. Like, Tony had said at one point, like, it was something his father had started working on.
Yeah.
So I guess it was either that or, like, I wonder if this is that, or if like a young Tony, like, saw this and then it, like, inspired him later in life. It's just a
this could be, you know, Howard looking towards the future and being like, this is something I want to make a reality. Or it could just be stained glass and he looks at it one day and goes, oh, I'm inspired.
Well, that's it. Yeah.
I cannot remember anything from Iron Man 3, but I remember I enjoyed it. But we know in Iron Man 2 when he makes the new element, but we know that his dad was working on something like the arc reactor, and that he'd left clues to Tony. So we know that, like, either Howard was like, "Oh, I'm gonna make stained glass," which is something he would do just on a whim,
and be Howard Stark.
And like, I'm gonna make stained glass. What am I gonna make? Oh, I'll just make this thing that I've been working on, and like, because it's appealing to me. So, like, we know that there's got to be, like, Howard definitely is leaving a trail for Tony even now. Before there's a gleam in his father's eye.
Yes. All right. So, let's get back to the investigation. And to get us back there, a big thing they go to the arena club, because they sort of trace all that back through the senator or the potential senator Calvin Chadwick and just, like, the pin as, like, and when Howard points out, like, this is the arena club, those tools, like, I don't think he used that word.
Yes, no, he said that they wouldn't even let Jarvis in because he was not white enough for them. And Jarvis remarked that he was 1/16 Turkish, and the arena club likes to keep their members male and pale.
There was a lot of race brought up at the beginning of this episode, like the first half, like because of Wilkes, like a lot of people were, like, bringing up, like, because of the color of his skin and he was a scientist, like all of this kind of stuff.
People are already predisposed to
not like him.
Yeah, exactly. So throwing on evidence that he, or, you know, quote unquote evidence that he may have been a Russian spy, it's not doing him any favors.
And people in the chat are saying that the pin was not the Hydra symbol.
Yeah, Ivan Soto is saying that and I did see this over the week, that the showrunners, I can't remember if it was Fazekas or Butters, but one of them said, when asked directly, like, is that the Hydra symbol? They said no. I don't buy that for a second.
Because it is exactly the symbol from S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, it is not. It is not an inspiration of it. Maybe he's being, like, purposefully obtuse because it's the Ares symbol or the ram's
Again,
head.
the ram's head.
The ram's head.
Where's that Hydra?
I mean,
Does that look like an octopus?
When she says no, like, I don't know. Here's the thing. Between that and the Dark Force, and we'll get more into what that is and all the explanations about that in a little bit. between those two things, because the Dark Force looks so much like both the portal in its liquid form from S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
Yeah.
and the gravitonium from season 1, Marvel shows are not careless.
No.
Marvel has never been careless with their crossovers and the references to other shows. They're very careful about those things. And for either one of those to not be what the other thing is that seems similar or related in some way that they've made an intention of, it just doesn't ring true to me.
I will buy not exactly the same thing, but absolutely related, predecessor to,
I would believe that most of the people in the Arena Club don't know that they're Hydra.
That was going to say, because that was the thing about the Arena Club was, I mean, they show up and not only is it a bunch of white dudes, it's a bunch of old white guys who are just like laying around,
like literally falling asleep.
It's a bunch of old white dudes gathered in a conference room, which is very similar to exactly what we saw from the Taurus or whatever they are group, the Ancient Hydra group in S.H.I.E.L.D. And so it stands to reason that the parallels are too numerous to ignore.
And they're in a hidden room behind a bookshelf. It's always a bookshelf. If you're an investigator, you're out there.
Just if there's a bookshelf, that's where you want to go.
Behind the bookshelf.
Always.
If you can't find the secret book trigger, move the bookshelf.
Pick up a candle and
Yeah.
then put it back. Put
If there's any random item on the bookshelf that is not a book, move it.
Now, I will say that the other thing that people kind of forget is that Hydra, as we knew it in Captain America: The First Avenger, is essentially dead at this point, but Hydra always pops up in different forms, and they've made it a point that with how long Hydra has been around, of course an organization like that is going to grow and evolve and change.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is probably, and I'm not going to dismiss and say that it isn't something else, because it could be, you never know.
But
there are government ties. It's an old boys club. The symbol looks too similar.
I was gonna say there's just too many factors pointing to yes for it to be completely unrelated.
I really, and we were talking about this before the show, but like I need to see a Hydra barbershop quartet now. The knowledge that exists.
The fact that there's a Hydra club that has a barbershop quartet, there's so much to go. I wonder,
Zach, what would that sound like?
I wondered that same thing. Hail Hydra.
We promised we wouldn't sing on S.H.I.E.L.D. This isn't S.H.I.E.L.D.
It is not. We made you all no promises.
Oh my god. I'm really excited to see the reaction to that.
Just stop.
But yeah, so the Arena Club, which we also now know for sure, is also going back to Thompson.
Right.
Is Vernon of the FBI as a member of the Arena Club. So
Thompson, I'm going to be nice here and say Thompson was a bit of a jerk this episode.
Yeah, why don't
That is putting it nicely.
Why don't we go back to the top of Thompson's story in this episode?
Yeah.
'Cause he shows up in LA.
Yeah.
He's acting like
He's acting like Thompson at the beginning of season 1. Like it felt like a big setback for him character-wise.
It did. It felt so strange and out of place because he had grown so, and we were talking about this again before the show, but he had grown so much by the end of season 1.
Right.
That it makes,
I mean, even though he did take credit.
He did take credit, but he, at the end of the season, he respected the hell out of Peggy.
Oh,
he
completely.
seemed to. But it's the issue of it's short memory. He respected her for a minute, and then he gets a big title, and he gets an inflated role, and he gets an inflated sense of ego.
Also, he gets this avuncular figure in the FBI. He lost his captain. He's now in charge, and now he's got this FBI guy who's like, "Hey, welcome to the club, man. I'm relying on you. You're doing a good job."
And it's a friend
Pat
of his
on the back."
father's
Yeah,
too.
Exactly.
And
Daddy issues.
I want to give him the benefit of the doubt because again, we did see him grow last season. And Peggy hit him real hard at one point.
Oh, it was amazing.
But I kind of want to give him the benefit of the doubt because he could very well be, at least at the beginning of this episode, he could be acting in like a Peggy Carter do not step on like these toes, do not make life difficult for yourself. You're already a woman working in the government. Things are hard enough for you.
Yeah.
Don't go running around with communists.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna get yourself in trouble. It could be that he's trying in his own way to protect her, but at the same time, it just felt really weird with the way they went about it. But again, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, especially because of the look that he had when he recognized the newspaper headline.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I think too, I mean, we see with his character in this episode, I think a little more of sort of the conflict that he's going through of, yes, he completely, like, I do genuinely believe that he really does respect the hell out of Peggy. But he also sees her constantly surpass him. And so I can't, and I think we talked about this last week, and I know a lot of people in the comments were like, you guys are great, but I totally disagree with you about Thompson. He's the worst. And basically saying that, you know, the only reason that Thompson sent Peggy away is so he could try to show her up and basically be like, I can handle things on my own. But I don't think it's a, oh, I want to surpass Peggy so much as a, like, I want to prove to myself that I am just as capable as she is.
And his chief got killed by Dottie last season, so I think it was a bit of that too.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of what Thompson is doing right now is, like, he's trying to protect himself because everything Thompson has ever achieved, he has not earned. He's been around and been given a medal because he fell asleep on the job, because Peggy was the only one who was investigating last season. And I think a lot of what Thompson feels is like he's got to deserve what he's doing.
Yeah.
That being said, in this episode, he did the exact same thing he did last season, where Peggy is like, we need to investigate this. Our job is to investigate things that don't make sense. None of this makes sense. We should investigate this. And again, he just completely ignored her, which is what you would do last season.
Yeah.
And it didn't seem like the Thompson that had seen Peggy take down an underground organization that had killed many of their members and would have destroyed them if it was not for Peggy.
Yeah, it again, it seems really odd, but again, like, I think another part of it is that he did lose Dottie. He wasn't able to get anything out of Dottie, and then he lost custody of her. And he didn't bring that up at all.
No.
Everything that he's doing seems to stem out of, like, this deep-rooted sense of insecurity, and the idea that if, you know, God forbid Peggy find out that Dottie is no longer in their custody.
Yeah.
God forbid that the people who are pressing the SSR right now find out he is a fraud, you know, that he is a sham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
His entire life, you know, is at risk of crumbling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what do you guys think about Thompson's reaction when he goes, or do you think it'll change now when he goes into the club and sees the paper just as Peggy described it? Because that seems like that's a pretty big wake-up call.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that I'm so conflicted about Thompson right now, because there is this part of me that feels like there is this awareness with him now, especially being in the Arena Club, that, like, he is investigating in his own way, in a way that he can as a white male. You know, it's almost like Peggy using her feminine advantages all the time. I think I want to believe that, like, Thompson's gonna make the right choice.
Yeah. I would love for him to become their inside man at the Arena Club.
Yeah, that could stand up to me. That makes sense. Real quick, Jesse, and then we're gonna move on.
As I predicted last episode, I think Thompson will be working with the FBI against Peggy Carter. Like, they'll either say that she's a communist, and like they'll like show some evidence or something like that. And I think he'll either be thinking he's doing the right thing to protect her by stopping her, and then realize that what he's doing is actually, and he'll have like a moment of redemption at the end, but he'll be an underground antagonist for her this entire season.
Yeah. Well, real quick, we got about 8 minutes left.
Oh my God.
That went
real
quick.
quick. We got about 10 minutes left. 10 minutes left. What do you guys think about let's talk about Whitney Frost and like she had that great performance.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, when she
Waterworks.
convinced her husband she needed to have Peggy Carter taken out right now.
Yeah, after Peggy sneaks
so
onto the
scared.
lot, which did you guys? Yeah, did everybody else know? I mean, I know we all did. The really weird, like it was awesome, but there's a very strange shot where they just like cut to some really, really old film stock of the Warner what we're
It's an
pretty
Angel
sure is
Studios.
the Warner Brothers lot
Because it was
from
stage
the
6.
40s and 50s. Yeah, we were only able to recognize it because I'm like, oh yeah, the stage 6, that would be the right distance from the street.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
It
and
completely different.
the like arched tops on the buildings is very Warner
in
Brothers
Warner Brothers.
also.
I mean, I used to work in stage 6
yeah.
like regularly for a job, and like that place is like 2 miles from where we're sitting right now.
Yeah, it is.
It looks nothing like that. It was also weird because like it was clearly stock footage.
Yeah.
Like it had that quality.
Yeah.
Like stock in like a good, like they went back
Yeah,
and
and they had
dug
just
out
like
archives.
they just like changed the titles on the
Angel
billboards.
Studios.
Yeah, Angel Studios.
Yeah, no, they could have very well like just drawn up a random generic
I know.
studio, but they took the time to go and get that archive footage.
Yeah.
somewhere.
I loved it.
So back to Agnes Cully.
Yes.
Yeah, the big we got
It's
a big reveal there
brilliant.
that Whitney Frost is not her
Yeah.
real name.
Yep.
She's already masking her real self.
Yes.
Um,
She does it on a regular basis.
yeah.
In her dressing room, there were many masks on the wall.
Yeah, when we were watching when she was like having that moment of like, I just sucked this dude into my arms. In the background were the comedy and tragedy masks.
Yeah.
Of drama and comedy.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
so,
the crack got
and the crack got
bigger.
Yeah,
I mean, listen, absorbing someone through your hands is one way to deal with someone who's trying to sexually harass you.
I don't wait. Why don't women just do that? I don't understand. If a guy's bothering, just absorb it through your
With great
monster.
power comes great
You're
responsibility,
right.
Jesse.
You're right. I'm
I-
sorry for mansplaining that to you. That's my bad.
It's okay. I promise I won't suck you up into my hand.
Thank you.
You're welcome, because I'm responsible.
use your powers for good.
By the way, the guy Ken was played by either Jason or Randy Sklar. I can't tell if they're not wearing glasses
Yep.
or have facial hair, but they're really funny stand-up comedians.
There was when she does absorb it, like my first thought was well, I had two things. First, I was like, this is the craziest version of Animorphs power I've ever seen. But also, like, I did expect her to change in this episode.
Yeah, I thought she was going to change her face.
Yeah, it was like a weird, and I mentioned anime earlier, that for anybody who watched Inuyasha, any young girls who watched Inuyasha back in the day, there was a character who that was his secret power, was he could, like, open up a glove on his hand and
absorb
just suck up everything. But I think
things.
I think what we're going to get is kind of like a clay face sort of thing, where she'll be able to absorb somebody and then she'll be
turn
able
into
to
them. That's kind of
turn
what I'm
into them.
thinking too.
Yeah, so like Animorphs, you're absolutely
Exactly.
right.
Yeah.
That's so exciting.
There was a little bit of discussion, and I see the chat roll sort of talking about it a little bit, but just to, so if you guys hadn't heard, another just quotes from the showrunners, that they said that we're not going to see Madame Mask in the gold mask.
Sure.
That was my understanding.
I think that basically what they're doing is they're going to do Madame Mask. Like, they are doing that character.
Yeah.
And, like, they're going to give her powers. They've rewritten her power set and origin story a little bit to give it a different mechanism.
Yeah.
So that, like, it ties with this Zero Matter or Dark Force.
Yeah.
And the Dark Force, I think this is a good enough place as any to get into it, is what is a small reference to the upcoming Doctor Strange.
Yep.
And I did a little bit of digging. I talked to some other Marvelites over the week. Dark Force is basically like an interdimensional force. So like Dark Force is almost like a realm.
Yeah.
And what
Okay, yeah.
we call the Dark Force is a little bit of that realm leaking into our own, and it's we only can see it as darkness.
Yes.
Yes, that's why in the part where it absorbs the nuclear explosion, it looks like a crack in reality.
Yeah.
Because that's part of the Dark Force kind of opening up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's literally a crack in the universe that's sucking
It
everything
really
into
is going into another dimension,
Yeah.
basically.
So right now, Whitney Frost has another dimension coursing through her body.
Yeah.
Basically.
And the more she absorbs, the stronger it becomes.
Yeah.
So the more that crack starts to widen.
Yeah. It's kind of like she like is the crack in the universe.
I am the dark force.
You know what I mean?
I worry about her just like getting to the point where she just becomes a black hole at the end of this season.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what form it takes. Maybe she can dispel the dark force from her. If we imagine that if they are able to cure Wilkes at some point and get him into back into corporeal form, you would imagine that they would be able to help her or take care of her in one way or another.
I feel like Howard and Wilkes will have to science the crap out of her.
Science.
Nice reference.
Yeah.
Good.
All right, so wrapping up here, do you guys have? Well, let's do some other quick references and everything before we get into some news and some predictions and stuff. But Jesse, you caught we had the movie scene.
Oh
Which had some fun stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Kid Colt is a Marvel property who's been around Marvel for a really long time. He was like a sidekick to Rawhide. Marvel right now is like exploring its earlier roots with Marvel 1806, and I'm sure Kid Colt will show up there. He's just his superpowers. He's a quick draw.
A
very
movie
fast.
based on a comic book.
Yeah, that
What do
will
they
not
think
get
of
made.
next?
I know.
Sounds like rubbish.
I'm still holding out for them making a Captain America movie at some point this season.
Yeah, I want them to make a Captain America movie.
I really want, if anyone from the show is listening, I really want Ralph Garman back on Agent Carter.
Yeah.
Seriously. Bring back Garman.
Yeah.
Garmy strong. But yeah, so I mean, was there anything else you guys caught? We went through a lot of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think
Stark offering for the women to go back to the pool and play water giggles.
that was great. I love that there are production assistants.
Yeah, they were all production assistants.
And just Stark being Stark in this episode. Who's Dottie Underwood? You were wearing the brown.
She kidnapped you.
Yeah.
How do you not
you
know?
wearing the brown blazer.
Mohair, yes.
The blonde.
The blonde who cracked me.
With a great backhand.
All right.
Yeah.
So with that, I think we've covered a lot of the episode. If you guys had anything else that you didn't think we got to, please let us know in the comments. But before we get out of here, let's do some quick news and gossip from around the Marvel world of TV. It came out today. If you guys hadn't heard, Marvel's Most Wanted, the spinoff coming up from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., featuring Mockingbird and Hunter.
Yes.
Hunting Bird, as we call it.
Hashtag hunting bird.
Has a new cast member, Dominic to play Dominic Fortune.
Good old Dom.
Yeah, I forgot to write down the actor's name. It is Howard. Nope.
Just some white guy.
No, actually, it's not.
Yeah.
Delroy Lindo.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Who's African American.
Nice.
Excellent.
Dominic Fortune is an old school S.H.I.E.L.D. agent in the books. He was recently featured in, I think it was issue 11 of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. 616 comic, where Coulson and an old a crusty old white man, Dominic Fortune, have to rescue a riverboat from Hydra that he had lost in a gamble or something. It was crazy.
The Millennium Falcon.
Basically.
But it's a cool random character. They could honestly do whatever they want with it.
Yep.
He's just old school S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, I like that Marvel is kind of being forced to look in their backlog of characters and re-up them, because I think that helps the comic books as well as the TV shows.
Yeah. I mean, I have mixed feelings about Most Wanted in general, but because I don't know what it is and where it ties into S.H.I.E.L.D. and if it's just a summer departure or whatever it's going to be.
Really mad we didn't get our consulting credit. That's what I'm mad about.
So that's the news. Let's do some predictions before we get out of here.
And now, your AFTERBUZZ TV predictions.
All right, guys, let's go around the horn. Jesse. What are you thinking? Why don't you kick us
Yeah,
off?
I mean, I think we're going to see... I think the main conflict is going to be what we see, what we see Agent Carter uncovering and figuring out, and the cover-up of the FBI and Frost. And I think so in the future we're just going to see more of what we've been seeing now. Like, they're going to go further in depth with this secret society and all that kind of stuff. And we'll see some awesome kind of like Thompson playing both sides. I think we probably won't see Stark for a while, which sucks. But it's cool having him there when we do. Yeah, that's all I got. I don't have anything big based off of this episode.
I feel like we got my major one, which is how Whitney's powers are going to manifest in her being able to change her face. And in regards to Thompson, I believe that we're going to think for the whole season that he's like a pseudo antagonist, but he's actually working for the good guys the whole time, and that'll be a big reveal, and he'll redeem himself.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Thompson is going to be their inside man.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be very interesting with the preview that we got. It looks like I'm very interested to see what lengths Peggy will go to get the answers that she's looking for in order to save Wilkes.
Yep.
Because it looks like she's not opposed to torture in like the next episode, so that'll be interesting to see, like I said, how far she's willing to go.
Yeah, I think Peggy's going to go a little off the handle at some point in the season trying to save Wilkes. Like, maybe the silver nitrate stops working at a certain point and she really just can't communicate with him. I think they're going to continue to grow closer until it's really pushing her to the brink, like falling in love with somebody and not being able to have any physical interaction with them.
And you made the point earlier that it's a really good parallel to what happened with her and Cap, and she's probably going to try as hard as humanly possible to save him because she wasn't able to save Cap. So, like, she's like, this guy is still alive. He's in trouble. I need to save him. I got him into this mess.
Yeah, I do think that I think again Thompson is going to be Thompson's role in this series is going to become very, very complex and integral to everything. I think he's going to infiltrate the arena club, and but whether he means to or not, I think he's going to wind up working for Hydra. And by the end of the season, I expect that Thompson and Peggy will be founding, with Stark, will be founding S.H.I.E.L.D., and Thompson is the Hydra branch, Peggy is the good, true S.H.I.E.L.D., and that's how we sort of get kicked off.
Yeah.
I also have some... Wilkes has some interesting implications. If they never solve Wilkes' problem, then that means that Howard Stark, for the rest of this time, has a ghost with him that is also a genius and is doing science with him. And that means that one of the reasons why Howard Stark is without a doubt a genius. Yeah. But one of the reasons why he is such a successful genius is because he also has a ghost buddy.
That sounds like a sitcom.
Yeah.
I would watch that show.
I'd watch that spinoff.
Watch that TV program.
And with that note, all right, guys, I think that's gonna do it for this week at Agent Carter here at AfterBuzz TV. Thank you all so much for joining us. Until next week, we'll be back here, same time, same place, talking about episode 4. Until then, Jesse Klein.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at JessKlein1. You can also find me all over the Los Angeles area doing comedy. So if I'm there, I'm probably doing comedy.
I'm Emma Fyffe. You can find me all over the internet at Emma Fyffe, EMMAFYFFE. That is all F's as in Fred, no S's as in snake. They tend to sound the same on the phone or when you record them into a microphone and transmit them into people's ears. I'm on a bunch of shows here at AfterBuzz TV. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll know about them because I tweet about them. Also, I do a Sailor Moon podcast called Love and Justice. And this weekend, if you guys are at Anime Los Angeles at the Ontario Convention Center, we are doing a panel on Friday, January 29th at 4:30. It is in room 203C, which, as far as I can tell, is upstairs. And that's from looking at a convention center map. I've never been to the Ontario Convention Center. But if you're there, come see me. Say hello. It's going to be fun.
I'm Megan. You guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at TheMenguin. That's TheMenguin. Also on a bunch of shows here at AfterBuzz. And I write articles for The Movie Chick. That's Chick with 2 Ks. Be sure to check those out.
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at @ZachWilson, ThatzachWilson. Bunch of shows coming up here soon after us. Grimm returns this Friday, and we'll be back Sunday talking about it. Very excited for that. You can also hear me occasionally over at Popcorn Talks Marvel Movie News as the voice of Doom from the booth. And so, as I said, I'm Zach Wilson, and thanks for geeking out with us.
From executive producers Maria Menounos,
Are we
Kevin
still doing
Undergaro,
Buzz?
Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz, see you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.